Hello family, my name is Chris, I am your home gamer dad, and today let's talk about Gnome Hollow, a game for 2 to 4 players, designed by Aman Anderson and published by The Op. Gnomes are real, and in the world of Gnome Hollow, you'll be playing as a pair of these whimsical little creatures as you create magical circles, harvest various mushrooms, and plant and pick beautiful flowers, overall to be able to gain the most treasure points by the end of the game and prove that you are the leader of your group and get to wear the coveted red cap. So we're going to head down to the table really quickly in order to be able to give a bit of overview about how the game works. Once I go through a little bits here and there, we're going to head back up and I'll give you my opinions on what I think about Gnome Hollow. But ultimately, I want to hear what your opinions are as well. Do you have Gnome Hollow? Have you played it? Do you enjoy it? What are your likes and dislikes about it as well? Is this something that is on your most anticipated list? Were you at Gen Con and did you happen to see the giant balloon structure that the op made for Gnome Hollow? I personally wasn't there to see it in person, but I saw plenty of pictures on it online. It looked so cool, and it just made me want to play this game even more. Special thank you to the op for sending me a copy in order to be able to review it for you guys. So let's go ahead and get down and see what it is that it takes to be the top gnome. So here are all the basic components for the game. There's only one of each right now that I'm showing you. Keep in mind, every one of these mushrooms or whatever comes with a bunch of them in the bag. So you're going to punch them out in order to hold on to them because you're going to be collecting these as you go through the game. Ideally, what it is everybody's going to take their turn to draft 2 tiles from here, plus using whatever tiles they happen to have in the reserve if they wish, in order to create various fairy circles around this stump. And that's what these little white dots are right here. Each of these dots, you can actually see it if you combine these 2 over here, just an example of what the fairy circles are going to look like. When you combine them, they're going to have mushrooms that grow in them as well. That's what it is that you're going to be collecting once you make a full circle. After you're done placing your tiles down, that's when you would resolve anything that happened to be a full circle, doing your harvest, and then going to your main board in order to move your markers. And then you get to move your gnomes into various places, and I'll talk about those in a minute. Each player does have their own player board down here, and one of the things I really love about this is I could do this, and oh no, nothing is falling off. That's because each one of these little markers here is magnetic. It'll snap right onto the board, and you won't have to worry about them falling off at all while you play. And this is great because this is a big tracker right here in terms of where you're going to gain a lot of your final points. If you move one of these over, then you're going to at least get 1 point by the end of the game. The more of these you move, the higher the final point value you're going to get by the end of the game as well. This is not cumulative. You're just going to gain whatever the highest number is. So at most, if you manage to get rid of all of these little markers right here, you would get 25 points, treasure points, I believe is what it's called here, to your score at the end of the game. For this here, we have the green player, which is Sour Jack and Sweet Jane. Another thing that I absolutely love about this is that all 4 of the different players, red, blue, green, and yellow, have 2 different gnomes that are attached to them. Now, they're gnomes regardless of anything, but they have their own artworks on them. They have their own name, and you can actually take them and you flip them over, and I like how they look different ways and everything. It truly is the opposite way they're looking. I love it. There's little attentions to detail like that make me very much appreciate it, because as someone who enjoys the narrative approach to a lot of games, this makes me have a story with my characters as I'm playing. So generally, whoever has the red cap will go first, and what you will be doing, let me just kind of move this over to give you an idea of what a turn is going to look like. The active player is going to first take 2 tiles from this little market over here, draft them, and they're going to place them somewhere around the stump. Now, there are rules when actually taking these tiles and putting them here. Mainly, you can only have like sides matching up to each other. You have sides that are path sides and sides that are grass sides. So just for example, I could take this right here and I could put this like that. So I have a grass side touching here and a path side touching here. I could not do this because a path side is touching a grass side, so that itself is an illegal move. Again, the goal is to ultimately make a circle using the various paths right here and collecting the mushrooms within those circles. And to do that, you just want to spin everything around as best as you can. Let me see if I can actually do this efficiently enough. Nope, that's not going to work. See, this is one of the only issues I have with the game, is trying to get certain things to line up the way that you want them to. See, that's not even going to work anyway, because you want to be able to get as good of a circle as you can. Maybe I can just do this way. Nope, let's try. You normally can't keep removing tiles like this. I'm just trying to figure out an example right here, which is one of the things I want to talk about a little bit later in the video. But for right now, this is an example of a circle that you would make. So this would require multiple turns in order to make, because you can only draft 2 tiles a turn. But as soon as this entire circle is created, you would take the matching mushrooms, which actually would be 2 red, not just 1, I only had 1 right now, and 1 pink, and they would just kind of form right in the middle. These are mushrooms that you're able to grab from this particular circle. So now we're going to reverse a little bit on this, and we're going to go ahead and just say that this is a standard turn. Standard turn, you take 2 tiles from the board, and you put them on the play area right here. So these are the 2 that I use. Now, this is not a completed circle, so it hasn't made the mushrooms, but that also means that another player could jump in and complete it and collect the rewards. Once I have done 2 tiles and I have done any circles that have been completed, that's it. Now we move on to the next part of the turn sequence, and that is moving one of your gnomes. These amazing player guides right here really do help out quite a bit in order to not only tell you like a lot of the symbology that's here, which is really not a lot at all, but then also going down each one of the sequences you have to do for your turn. So like I said, we were able to place tiles, we resolved anything that was there, it was not, and now we get to move a gnome. You take 1 of your gnomes and you do 1 of 4 actions: reserving a path, collecting a flower, access a signpost, or move to the market, or sell at the market, I should say. And that's simple enough. You just take 1 of your gnomes for the first action of reserving a path, and you place them, boom, right on the path itself. I'm just going to lay them down for the purpose of the camera. And basically that's saying that this is my path. This is my circle of, mushrooms here, that I am the only one that's going to be able to collect from this going forward. Another player cannot grow or attach any other tiles to my path unless I give them permission. Now, they still can line up grass areas to it. That's perfectly fine, but they can't build off of my path. Like, nobody can do this without my permission. Now, I don't see why I wouldn't let them do that, because it would fill my circle. It's just very interesting. Like, it's not really cooperative, but you find yourself working with other players all the time to just make bigger circles or make better things happen or things along that ways. You want to have the most points at the end of the game for your particular character, but you just can't help it. I don't know why. The way with the gnomes work or whatever, they're so happy and jolly like that, you just want to help other people. With that said, again, no one can actually do that, so I would place my gnome here, and that would be the end of my turn. I have then just moved my gnome. I would then go into this bag right here, and I love all these bags that I've been finding in various OP games that I have been seeing out there. You go in, there's a lot of tiles in here. You grab however many you need in order to replace on the market, 1, 2, and boom, there you go. And then it just proceeds to the next player. Now, on a future turn, say I then go ahead and fill in this, and boom, bam, ba-boom, I have now completed this circle. I still would have 1 more tile to lay, which I can lay somewhere else, but now at the end of this, I would collect into my inventory a yellow, a pink, and a red mushroom, which I would then be able to use going to the market. And I love the market in this game because it really makes you strategize what tiles you want to use and how you want to place them on the board in order to be able to get the most out of it. Basically, when you do a market action, so you would move your gnome to the stump itself, you would then take 2 different colored mushrooms and sell them in sets of 2 or more. So you couldn't do like a red mushroom 2 and 4. It would have to be 1 red, like 2 or 3, and then a yellow 2 or 3, whatever. They have to be 2 different colors, and they have to be 2 or more. What's awesome is that, as you can see, there's various scoring points right here, depending on how many of a certain color mushroom you trade in. So if you trade in 5 yellow, you would get 4 points. Once you do that, there's actually a stack of these particular X'd out markers right here, but you would cover it over, and now nobody else for the remainder of the game can sell 5 yellow mushrooms. They would need to rethink their strategy, sell less, try to get more, something along that ways, in order to be able to get the amount of points. Once you go and collect points, There we go. So I have a 3 and a 1 treasure that I was able to find, and then this would sit next to my board. So that means for endgame scoring, I would have at least 4 points, plus whatever it is that I get from my player board. Gnomes love flowers. So another action that you're going to be able to do is pick one of the various colored flowers that are either in the market or possibly growing in the wild. And by doing that, you yourself gain a wild. So before I go into that, I do want to just mention that after you create a circle, that's when you score it on your board. You're going to count however many tiles are within this circle. So this is 1, because this counts as 1 giant tile, but it will never count more than 1. So if you happen to use various lines from the stump, it will only count once for a circle. 1, 2, 3, 4 different tiles, which means I would go over here and I would take my leftmost marker and I would find the number 4 here and move that down into one of these spots. As you can see, there's only 1 spot under 3, which means if I had made a 3, segment tile, this would go here, and then going forward, any other 3 segments would not actually move one of these markers down. I would need to make 4, 5, and 6. Once you do 5, 6, and 7 or more, moving a marker down will actually trigger one of the various rewards here that you could do, which would be placing a signpost, and I'll talk about those in a moment, gaining a tile into your reserve. You can have up to 2 held at any one time, so put 1 into your reserve that you could use later, or gaining a flower from the market, which I will talk about momentarily as well. Once you move your second one, that's when you're able to gain a wild token and start filling in your flowers. There's 8 different colored flowers that come with the game. We have these right here, and then I have these 2 up here in the market just for an example. If you happen to reveal that flower symbol on your board, you're then able to take a flower from one of a color that you do not have from here. So this would actually go on your board, and then you would gain the matching color tile into your reserve as a wild card that you could use later. All of the extra flower tokens would then go up here. So for example, if I had a 2-player game, there would be 2 of these, 3 for 3, 4 for 4. There's always 1 per character, and they would go, or player I should say, and they would all go up here. So this way other players can collect their colors later on. Moving back down over here, we can then place the new flower up top here, which now, as we start collecting flowers, those are going to score us points for whatever it is that they're on top of. So the more flowers that we collect, and again, they all have to be different, the more endgame points we're going to get. So if I manage to end the game like this, for example, I would gain 10 points for the amount of open spaces I have here, plus 14 for the flowers that I've collected. As far as these wild tokens go, these can pretty much match up anywhere. You plop them down and they represent both grass and circles. These are the only things that are a little confusing to me because sometimes you create these weird edge cases where multiple circles get completed, or you're cutting off a certain line or a certain circle or one like that. So they're great to use. They're a wonderful thing to have, but sometimes you look at them and you just see the circle. And I've played with some people where they're like, well, that is a circle, so that counts, right? It goes up and around and everything. Like, no. You can't think of it that way. You can just think of it as each one of the corners is both a path piece plus a a grass marker. So this is the one aspect that's a little bit confusing, but I get why it's used, and it can be very, very helpful in the long run when you want to create one of those big 7-point circles. Another thing you can do with your gnomes is putting down signposts. Once you place a signpost in an area where your gnome is, you immediately gain the benefit that is on the signpost. This one is gaining 3 red mushrooms. It's actually on both sides, which is really good. Makes it very easy to like see it and everything, because they're supposed to be standing up and everybody kind of sees them anyway. So the signpost would pretty much just go down in the area where it's supposed to go. I'm going to lay it down again here just for camera wise. My guy would have been here, and shabam, I have 3 red mushrooms. If my guy wasn't here, at a later turn, either myself or another player could plop themselves into this circle. They wouldn't gain any of the mushrooms that spawned on the circle because they've already been picked, but they would be able to grab the 3 red mushrooms should they wish to do that. So signposts can be used multiple times throughout the course of the game, depending on what you need and depending on what actually fall onto the board. And the last thing that you can do with your gnome is bring them up here to the flower shop, and you'd be able to take any one of the colored flowers that you do not have. Now, my character obviously doesn't have either pink or red, so I'd be able to take either one. as many gnomes can be up here as possible. Normally when a gnome sits on a spot, they are the only ones that can stay on that spot, but multiple gnomes can go to market and multiple gnomes can come up here to the flower shop. The game ends in one of 3 different ways, and a lot of it is just based off of what ends first. The first thing would be this pile of tokens that are in here, which is a lot. There's a lot of tiles within this bag. You'll be in here for a while. Normally at the very beginning of the game, you're going to be taking out 2 tiles per player, and they're going to go underneath a special sun token. This token right here will pretty much signify that once the bag is empty, all of these tokens that are underneath it go back into the bag, and then everyone takes an equal amount of turns. So if the first player actually triggered one in the end game, everybody else will be able to continue on because all of these would go into the bag, minus the sun token, of course, and then just have enough to be able to fill the market for the rest of the turns. Another way that the game immediately ends is if one person has cleared out all of their markers right here. Once the last one has been moved, again, everyone takes the same amount of turns, and then final scoring. And then on the third way that it ends is if somebody gains one of each of the different colors of flowers up here. Once they get their 8th one, it ends. Now, I should say beforehand is that everyone gets an equal amount of turns, and then you're allowed to take a move gnome action. Thank you very much. One last time per player in order to try to gain any final market things that you can sell for points, or any flowers that other players may be missing, or things along that ways. And that's really it. Each player is just going to take their turns in order to draft 2 tiles using whatever additional ones that they have in their supply if they wish, put them on the board, make circles, collect their mushrooms, and then move their gnome in order to do what they need to do, whether it be collecting treasure, collecting flowers, collecting more tiles, moving signposts, adding signposts, things along that ways. Once the final scoring has been done, whoever has the highest score is the red cap. It's actually rather simple once you get down to it, and the actual instruction guide to it is pretty big. It's very well detailed. It does give examples in here about certain circles and whatnot that may seem a little weird and a little awkward, because I've had games and other gameplays where there's been a big hole in the center where you're kind of going up and around and everything like that. And there's really nothing more that you can do about that. Once you have made a circle, you can't place another tile down unless it goes towards a different circle. So there's some weird, like, you got to really think about where you're placing each tile each time. And I know that can be difficult for some people because they don't have that spatial recognition of like, all right, if I put that tile here and I do this and I do that, it'll make this one. And it just, sometimes it gets a little frustrating, but once you make that perfect circle, man, does it feel great. A common thing that I happen to also see is that people forget that you can flip these tiles over. Now, generally something like this isn't going to matter because it's going to look exactly the same on the same side, but certain ones like this, once you flip it over, it's slightly angled in a different way, and the paths kind of match up different positions and everything. So you might be able to kind of shift your way in and do something else with it, as opposed to, I think what I had earlier is I had it this way. Yeah, so I had it, well, I couldn't even do it this way anyway, because that would be an illegal movement anywho. But I would see this and be like, oh no, how am I going to place this? That can't work. But I would just need to flip it over, and ba-boom, not only do I have a circle that works here, but now I have the beginnings of another circle right here that I can move my gnome over as well. Gnomes cannot take, like, what is it? I believe they can't take the same action within the same turn, or like she could be here, but then I would need to take a second gnome and put him here. I couldn't move her to here immediately. I believe so anyway. Just let me know down if you've played this and that's how it worked for you or whatever. Again, I got to go through and read some more of the rules, but certain situations like that never really came up. We just allowed it to happen because you're moving a gnome, you're claiming your next spot, and that's really it. What's also cool about these boards is that they are double-sided. So you can actually have, so here's the red one right here. So as you can see, it's the exact same setup as green, but if you flip it over, and this is again going to be the exact same setup for every color, it's just, this is a more advanced side. It's the same amount of markers on top, but now what it's asking you to do is you have 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So you're only allowed to make one of each one of these particular number of tiles in a circle. Then it wants you to start making specific shapes in order to be able to gain the rest of them, which is a lot more difficult. And for some people, like I said before, that don't have the like the mindset of, if I put this here, it'll make that, it'll look like this and whatnot and everything. And they kind of find themselves getting frustrated. This may be the side that they do a little bit later when they're more comfortable with the game, when they actually can see how things are created, when they're a little bit more familiar with the rules, and of course, when they're more confident that they'll be able to make some of these crazy huge patterns on the board just by using whatever tiles are available. In addition to that, the signposts actually have an additional thing as well. If you go and activate a signpost, whether it be putting it on the circle you're at by using a gnome ability or traveling to it later, not only will you gain the advantage that is on the signpost, but then you could take one of the 2 available actions that is below them, which means like you could gain 2 blue mushrooms here and then immediately trade them in for 3 pink. Or you can gain a tile from the board, and then you can even trade in that tile for immediate 1 point or for 1 purple mushroom. So there's a lot of now item and resource management here that you can go through in order to be able to gain all of these different resources. I mean, purple's great. Purple's worth the most, as you can see down here. But if you manage to grab a ton of reds, you can still get a good amount of points for that by taking the 1 purple you got and trading it in for 4 red. So many different options, so many different ways that you can play and gain your points that each time you do it, you're going to be thinking about it in a different way, and each of your gnomes are going to be going off and harvesting their mushrooms and really creating a beautiful landscape for all of their fairy type friends. And that's the basics of Gnome Hollow. Things I really like about it: the art. The art is very whimsical and it's bright and it's really easy to look at. Like, you're not going to be sitting there and trying to strain your eyes about what does this say, what does that say, and everything like that. Some of the symbols might be a little bit hard to read if you're just kind of doing a quick glance at them. But again, you have your symbol guide right here as well. So this way you can look at it, you can see it, and then you can compare it to what's on here in order to know exactly what it does. So that's really, I love player aids. Player aids are one of the best things ever that you can find in any game at all. And the simpler the player aid, the better it is. As far as gameplay goes and everything, I like it. It's a great amount of strategy for each turn. There's really not that much downtime between each turn, even at 4 players, because the turns generally happen really quickly. 1, 2 tiles, down they go, and then move your gnome, and off you go from there, scoring and everything in between. And once it's scored, I like sitting there, and I've always enjoyed helping all the other players score by just seeing what their circle is, be like, oh, you got these different mushrooms. Oh, that's really cool. Here you go. Put those into there. And it kind of gives me a little bit more interaction between me and the players whenever we go ahead and just harvest our circles and things along that ways. There may be a little bit of time between when certain players have to think about what they want to do compared to what they do. I've had a few games where I've seen where I've had analysis paralysis from some of the players. I've had it too as well, where you want to make a shape, and in your brain, you could see it, but the tiles just aren't working out. So you're back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and there it can be a little bit frustrating in terms of getting the exact shape you want. But it's not always necessarily the best strategy to make the biggest circle that you can immediately, because if it's 8 tiles or higher, it really means nothing at that point. 7 is the highest it goes, and you can only do that so many times. So maybe going for the lower tile count or whatever is the better choice. It really all depends on how things are on your table and how things are starting to grow. The only other thing you really got to pay attention to when you're playing this is your table space. Now, these don't really take up that much space. This is kind of their own thing. All the other tokens and whatnot, kind of just lay to the side of it. You'll be able to get it. But once you start really growing from this tree trunk right here and you get a ton of different paths and everything, you're going to move, and you can be all the way over here or all the way over here. And the way I've also noticed it is that depending on where the players sit will pretty much determine where they're going to start growing from their stump. Very rarely did I ever have somebody that sat on this side start making a circle on this side. So a lot of that also goes into play of just making sure you have the table space for this to grow, see the types of impressive circles that everyone's going to make, and of course, just try to work together on it, because even though you are biting to have whoever has the most points, I think it's still just cool seeing how other people work and how they figure out the puzzle within it to make these circles work for them. Time frame wise, it's about 45 minutes to an hour, maybe an hour and a half on a teach with a big group, but really, again, there's really not that much downtime between turns, and it goes pretty fast, and you'll be digging through this bag faster than you think, because the turns just happen really rapidly along that ways. And really, the actual ages on this, I believe, are 12 plus. 9, 10-year-olds can easily play this as well if they have a good grasp on, their shapes and recognition along that way. And it might even help them, to be honest with you, to be able to understand how these shapes are formed and just kind of really get their brains thinking and whatnot. So definitely recommend this for families out there. For me, the sweet spot is about 3 players from what I'm seeing on this. 4 is good and all, but again, that takes up a lot of table space as everyone's growing it. And then the 2-player mode works very well for it. Do I think that this could have had a solo mode? I do. I really do. Like a point gaining solo mode of sorts, where an AI player would, or an AI gnome of sorts, would just take random tiles from the market, get rid of them, or then put them on the board and start creating their own stuff. I don't know. I could definitely see that as something that might be in a future expansion for Gnome Hollow, if that is the case that the OP wants to do for it, or the app wants to do for that. But overall speaking, love this game. So much fun. I've played it several times. This is one that will not be leaving my collection anytime soon. And of course, I want to hear what your opinions of this are as well. What do you think of Gnome Hollow? Have you been able to play that or see anything about it? Is this something you think you're going to add to your collection? Or if you added it, are you going to keep it? Are you going to cull it? It's all up to you and everything like that. I want to hear all different aspects of this game, both good, bad, and in between, because that's how you know what type of games these are, what type of games that you yourself are going to enjoy, and if it's something that you want to add to your collection. And with that said and done, let's go ahead and continue this talk down in the comment section below with all of that I mentioned. Plus, I'm curious what do you think of this new format for reviews that I'm going to be doing for board games. I still have, your mileage may vary, I'm going to still keep doing those, but I think those are going to be more video game focused. I want to talk about board games going forward, especially those that are new that I get that publishers want me to show off and everything along that way, is because I may not be able to play them for you right away, or they may not have solo modes attached to them, but I still want to make them known. I still want to put them out there. I want to give them their attention. I want to give them their time to shine and everything like that. And I want to let you know exactly what I think about them and what you think about them in addition, whether again, good, bad, or in between. So let me know all of that down in the comment section below. And in order to not miss any future games that I wish to talk about or other fun things that I put out for you to enjoy, be sure you are subscribed to the Home Gamer Dad. If you wish to support the channel even further, there are ways to do that down in the description section below. But in all honesty, your view, your like, your comments, subscribing, and of course, sharing this video around social media and whatnot is a huge help to making sure that the most eyes get on this as possible. And of course, being able to bring it to other people that may not know exists or what know what it's about, so they can see and make a determination if it's something they want to add to their collection or not. In any case, you guys have been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. We are family forever, gaming together. Thank you all again, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everyone.